What is fight or flight? Phobias discussed on Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit. Hi there, it's Karina from Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit. And today I'm going to be speaking to you about phobias and the fight or flight response. So, have you ever been in a situation whereby, you've been in a situation where it's been really frightening? And it could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be, you know, um, something that you were afraid of, like spiders, or maybe it's just something, um, that has been really, really traumatizing for you. So, for example, a lot of us get fight or flight responses when something like a trauma has happened, and this is what we call PTSD. And what actually happens is we have something called the fight or flight response, and it's also known as the acute stress response. And what it refers to is a physiological reaction which occurs when we are in the presence of something that is mentally or physically terrifying. So what happens is that your body goes into this sort of um, intense fear reaction, and what happens is the nervous system is activated by a sudden release of hormones. Okay, and these the sympathetic nervous system, it stimulates the adrenal glands, and that triggers the release of catecholamines and adrenaline and non-adrenaline as well. So the chain reactions actually result in an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and it takes about roughly 20 to 60 minutes for the body to return to its, normal homeostasis, I suppose. So when you face something frightening, you might feel your heartbeat quicken, you might start breathing faster, and this is called hyperventilation. It might not be as severe as that, but it could go into that, and that's what we call a panic attack, where your heart races and it can actually feel like you're dying sometimes, and your entire body goes tense, and it's in this sort of ready to take action. You sometimes get dilated pupils, you can tremble, you may get pale or flushed skin, and there's different ways that your body does respond. When you're having a panic attack or you're going through anxiety, for example, and it happens when we're dealing with a lot of stress in our lives or danger in our environment. So when we feel like we're under threat, for example, the responses in your body is geared up to go into this either fight or flight, and it can be triggered by real, but it can also be triggered by imaginary threats. So sometimes what happens is you can actually get afraid of something, um, which is not actually true. So, for example, I don't know, phobias are a good example of how the fight and flight response might be falsely triggered, in the face of a perceived threat, for example. So, say, for example, a person who's terrified of heights, they may experience, like sort of a very an acute stress response if they have to go on the top floor of, say, a big building, for example, to attend a meeting. The body might go into a high alert, heartbeat might start to increase, and as I said before, some people are so afraid that it can lead to a panic attack. Um, and what can actually happen is sometimes is that you know we fear things where we feel like we're in danger, and that is your body going to this natural fight or flight. But when you've been traumatized, and sometimes this actually happens with love, and I know it sounds bizarre, but when you've been burned by love before, and say you put all your emotion and heart into something, and then all of a sudden that person betrays your trust, and it can be very traumatizing, and it can sort of really kind of create a trauma where you're replaying what happened over and over again, and you're responding to that feeling again and again, and you're constantly trying to fix it, and you know and what that does is when you're stuck in this cycle of your past, that anyone new who you meet, for example, that starts saying all these loving things to you, your body is still traumatized, so it's thinking, "Ah, this burned me before. This love business burned me." So it goes into this kind of fight or flight response where you sabotage somebody that might actually be good for you and wants longevity, but because you've been burned by love before, you're doing the fight or flight response whereby you will fight that person or you'll flee. And it happens because you're afraid of getting close to that person because your body is naturally bringing anxiety to the surface in your subconscious and giving you physical problems because you're nervous around that person and you're afraid of that person because you're experiencing feelings that before ended up going wrong. And so, I've gone through this myself, and, a lot of it is down to trust. And trust is risk because people are capable of making mistakes. But by knowing that, and by accepting that, a relationship is not going to be, perfect all the way through and that things could go wrong, once you understand that that's what a real relationship is. Things do go wrong and then you fix it or you go through bad phases or and this will happen, but as long as you have got a way to communicate with each other and be completely honest about your feelings and explain that you're afraid and these are the reasons why. And a lot of it is about building trust. So for example, if there's somebody that you're really you're feeling nervous and all this kind of stuff, you know and you just need to have an avenue of conversation of the things that you expect in a relationship, of the things that you want in a relationship, whether it's a logical thing or whether it's emotional, whether it's physical. When you have a discussion about what your needs are and what your boundaries are to what you will and won't accept, then you're able to create, a bond where both people know the score. If you don't have that conversation, then or you pretend that you don't care because you're pushing them away, then what happens is that person is seeing that person pushing them away and don't think that you're interested. So they're going to act as if they're single and they're just going to continue with their life. And if you have got genuine feelings there, when they do eventually move on, that's going to bring you back into that fear zone because the things that you actually feared the most made it happen by your response of pushing that person away. So it's really important to have that open communication and be better with communication when, for example, you're trying to hide how you feel, for example. And it's really, really important to be upfront and honest because if you don't have that truth between two people or that real, the real feelings of how you truly feel, that person is always going to be pushing you away. There's always going to be self sabotage going on because you're responding to fear. And, from somebody who's experienced that before, which I have, you know, um, it takes a while to fix fight or flight symptoms when you've been in a very toxic situation whereby you're getting close and then they're sabotaging it and then you're back in square one again. You build up hope and then you get close again and they sabotage it and then it's like a roller coaster of, there's no commitment. It's the self-sabotage, there's fear, and then there's the lies that go along with it because they're afraid of what people may think. And and I honestly believe this, that fear is one of the biggest problems that we have when it comes to relationships because so many people in this life it's not worked out. And it's not, like you've got to take the responsibility of what your actions were in the relationship, and that person has to take responsibility of theirs and think, how could have I been a better person to that person? And sometimes you've been the best person you've been to the person. It's just that you just didn't work out, and you have to accept that. You just have to accept that both energies were not compatible. And And that can be hard for people who have invested a lot of time and effort into relationships. And that's why people get hurt, because they don't want to feel like they've invested all this time, love, energy to someone that can betray their trust. And, that's a perfectly reasonable fear. But it's also important to understand that people are capable of making mistakes. And it's something that I've learned. But the thing is, it doesn't mean to say that you say to that person, well, you're going to make a mistake and I'm just going to, you know, get used to you treating me badly. No, you voice your boundaries, you tell that person what you expect. If you want monogamy, say, I want monogamy, but then you have to practice it as well. You can't expect someone else to give you monogamy and then you can't do it. So it's one of them things that you have to really think about what you truly want. And that can take a long time because maybe you're not ready for a proper relationship. And it could be that you're just sabotaging the bond because you know that you're not capable of a long-term commitment because you're distracted by different people all the time. And that's another reason why sometimes you do that, because you're going through a fight or flight symptom, because whenever you get close to someone, you're getting that sort of, oh my God, this person might hurt me. And you're remembering the trauma of what it was like before. But then you're also putting yourself in a situation where you might be missing out on a really loving, mutually loving relationship that will last with time. So it's really important to think about, if you are getting these responses, are they rational responses? Because, for example, if you're not with someone, um and you're basically telling them that you don't want to be with them, and then you push them away and you say, I'm not interested in you, and all these things, and then that person says, okay, fine, I'll try and move on, and then that person moves on and it hurts you. Then you have to really think about what it is that you actually want, because if you want that person and you don't want that person to be with anyone else, you can't expect that person to be faithful to you because of your fear at a distance. And that is a classic symptom of PTSD. That's a classic symptom of fight or flight response. And it's something that you have to acknowledge that you're doing, and it's something that you have to really get into the mindset of trying to get rid of that fear, and just saying that even if the worst was to happen, I will get through it because I'm a strong person, and I'm not going to let the actions of other people disturb my inner peace and my, what I feel about myself. And a lot of it is down to the negativity that you say to yourself. So if you're sitting there and saying, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm this, I'm that, you know, if you're saying these things to yourself and thinking that you're not enough, for example, then you create your reality. So it's about changing your mindset, and that can take a bit of work. Believe me, I know. You have to go. I mean, I've been through CBT and I've studied counselling, at university. And, there's been situations whereby, you know, people bottle things up and they don't express themselves truthfully, and this is the very reason why you don't find solutions to problems, because you're not addressing them, you're running away from them. And that's why people with fight or flight quite often turn to alcohol, and drug addictions and things like that, because they're avoiding pain, they're avoiding the thing that is causing them stress, because what's happened is they've gone through something very difficult in their life, and it can be really hard for them. So, and this is the reason why this happens for people that are going through fight or flight. And the disorder's called PTSD, and it can give you all kinds of different symptoms. And I remember when I was very young and I went through quite a traumatic event, and it was really hard for me. Couldn't watch sex scenes on TV, and I know it sounds weird, but I'd gone through quite a trauma in my teens, and for some reason, it just made me feel like I was losing control. I was going to lose everything. My heart was racing. I felt powerless. I felt uncontrollable. I was scared. And I had irrational fear over something that's meant to be a beautiful thing, between two people, but at the time I was so traumatized that I had anxiety, I had panic attacks, I was falling downstairs. And I remember the hyperventilation. I had to use a bag all the time, and it was horrendous time for me, and little things could trigger it off, and it can be a smell, it can be, and it was full blown panic attacks at the time, and I was going through anxiety as well, and thankfully now I'm at a place where I've dealt with that trauma, so I can watch sex scenes and I can, be physical, to a certain point, because at the moment it's something I'm trying to get better from a past bond as well. So at the moment, when I talk about fight or flight, when you've gone through trauma, it is hard to pick up the pieces afterwards because, you know, emotionally you're scarred because of trust, and it's hard to be able to trust people when you've gone through something so bad. But it's always worth remembering, and this is what I tell other people that are going through, this kind of condition, is that not everyone is a cruel person and not everyone just wants a single life all their life. There are people out there that want longevity. They want to have, you know, um, someone there to love and to spend the rest of their lives with and have children. And, you know, I've come from a background where I've had long-term relationships, but then I had a single period because the person, that I fell in love with didn't want to be with me. And so, you've got to remember that people go through different things in life. And, until you're healed from the past, it's hard for you to go forward. So I always recommend healing. It's really important to heal from these wounds, and really think about, when you're having these panic attacks or anxiety attacks and things, and you're afraid, open up to that person and say to them, this is what I'm going through when I'm around you. I find it really hard because I'm afraid that you're going to be with someone else, and that I don't mean anything, that kind of thing. And I can always sense when someone is nervous about someone else is going to try and or cheat on them and things like that. I can always sense it. And the thing is, you have a right to feel that way if you're with someone, and the problem is when you fall for someone, and say both people fall for each other, but one of them's afraid to be with that person, but then the feelings are there. So when the other person tries to move on, that person gets hurt, and then there's a cycle of coming back to each other, breaking up, coming back to each other, and there's no stability. And the reason for that is sabotage. It's self-sabotage. It's fear of loving someone and then losing them. So you sabotage it and then, you know, that's it. And that was what kept happening to me. I kept getting close and then he kept sabotaging it. Then he was saying that he didn't care about the other girls. Coming back to me, we shared a night mutually, and it's this sort of, this fear can be so great that it can open up a whole different can of worms because you can't explain your behavior, and then because people are questioning you about it, you're afraid, and then you end up saying something stupid, lying about stuff because you're afraid of what people may think, or you're afraid of you know, what would happen if you would be with that person. And so you're constantly on this cycle of sabotage, and it can happen with so many people, and that's why a lot of guys, and a lot of women even, they don't want love. They say that they don't want it anymore because after they've been through a bad experience, it's really hard for them to love again. And I'm a great believer that, if you truly love someone and you truly want to be with them, but they don't want to be with you, you must let them go. And it's okay to maybe try now and again, but not every single day. And you shouldn't be like calling them all the time or anything like that, or going to the house. That's stalking. So, trying your luck now and again is fair enough. But if someone says no, try and move on. I mean, that's something that has taken me ages. I mean, I will always probably have a soft spot for this person because I can't help it. My heart, for some reason, it's like having a heart has got a mind of its own. But at the same time, I know where the clear boundaries are. If that person doesn't want to talk to me, that's cool. I'm going to get on with my life, do what I need to do, and I will end up dating. And that's the thing, it's like your the problem is when you're dealing with someone who lives in fear, you can't plan ahead. You can't make consistent goals. You can't have a relationship, a normal relationship, because it's constant sabotage. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And I can't live my life being faithful to someone who cannot give me consistency and commitment back. Does that make sense? So it's really important for, if both people love each other, they both need to have that conversation and to be with each other. If they and make that commitment and be 100% in, because you could spend your whole life, you know, going through different people, and and it's not fair, really. It's not fair. And say if you've still got feelings for someone, it's not fair on those other people that you're getting with, because you still are linked with someone else. Your heart is linked, but at the same time, once you make that decision, or if you don't want to be with that person, then you've got to sever that link, and you've got to say, right, regardless of my, love and attachment to this person, which I probably will always have, I have to now think about me and bring that love for myself and move on if that person is not interested in me anymore. It's if you don't have communication and if you don't have a plan, things are never going to get resolved. It's always going to be up and down, because that person isn't resolving his fear issues. And, for someone who is a consistent person and wants, I come from a family where longevity is like key, so I've always had long-term relationships. And the only time I've been single is because I was very traumatized when, this person left me, and we weren't together, but there was something there between us whereby he was hitting on me a lot. And then I was having conversations with him, which I've got saved on my computer. But this is just an example of what up and down can look like. And that is to do with fear. You know, if someone is hitting on you a lot and they're expressing how they feel about you through, their ways, then obviously that person has a thing for you. But if they're telling you face to face they don't want to be with you, then that's fine. But you see, the problem lies when there's contradictions, and that's what I mean by hot and cold. It's like, I want this and I really need this, but at the same time I'm afraid of it, so I'm just going to sabotage it and come back, when I need this, and it's and it almost becomes like you become like a drug to someone. You're not getting what you need from that person. You're not getting the stability. You're not getting any of that. You're just becoming someone that person feels that they can go to whenever they feel like it, but have his cake and eat it. And the thing is, that works for him because, he gets to have his freedom and he gets to have you. And the problem with that is that you are pining. you know, you're in love with this person. So seeing him get with other women, it's soul destroying for you. And he gets jealous if you're with other guys and it's soul destroying for him. And I always know, because it's like if someone reacts in fight or flight at the time of when, say, you're talking to someone else, even though you're not together, that person has feelings for you, and that hasn't changed. So it's kind of like what people like this do when they're in fear, they cut off contact because they know that they're afraid of that person moving on and they don't want to be in presence of that person. So, that's the reason why they do it. And and so that's why, you know, unless you deal with your fear, unless you have that conversation, unless you build up trust, you are always going to keep sabotaging love. And it's really important that, even if it's a phobia that you've got, sometimes a lot of it is about, taking that risk. And it's scary. It's really scary. Like, for example, I had to try and get over my fear of heights, and that was really scary. Um, and I got fear of the sex scenes and stuff, but a lot of it was, I was afraid. I was afraid of losing someone I loved to a sex scene, which is ridiculous. But, it your brain is irrational when you've gone through trauma. And that's why I don't hold it against people. That's why I can love even after when I see sort of like flight or fight responses, I can still care about that person, even though I know that that person right now needs to fix himself, for example. And it's the same with other people that I know as well. Some people do this with friendships. They sabotage the friendships because they're not used to having a loving environment. So what they do is they push those people away because they're afraid of getting close, and then they sabotage it, and because they've not known stability. So for me, I when I make friends with someone, like for me, it's a long-term thing. I will be friends with you for a very long time, and I'll try my best to be a good friend. You know, um, I'll always be there for my friends. I always cook for my friends. I've given them a place to crash. I've bought them food, alcohol. I've been a really cool friend. And I've even given friends somewhere to live. When they were homeless and stuff. And I've never had the same treatment back, really. Only a few people have been sort of as kind. And you don't do things for it to be given back, but you do expect respect if you've helped a friend out, for example. And I think the problem that you've got is that for me, I'm always going to be someone's friend unless that person, you know, deceives me. Because when you've gone through trauma in the past and when you've gone through difficult times, you can't, you'll just never accept bad treatment in the same way again. When someone's disrespecting you, ridiculing you, making you feel bad about yourself, then why would you have that person in your life? If they're publicly putting you down, and they have no consideration of how something may affect you, and they're backstabbing you, they're being nasty about you and stuff, they're lying to you, you know. I've even had friends who have you know, stole from me. And I made such bad choices of friends when I was younger because I didn't have that self-love. So I didn't have the boundaries there. And when you're older and you've been burned a few times by friends, so-called friends, your boundaries go up because you have to assess the people that are around you. Are they sticking up for you? Do they defend you? I mean, I understand if you're a mutual friend on something, I always tell people to stay out of it. But I'm talking about when somebody is a bully, or, would you be their friend? And, would you tell them that what they're doing is wrong? And through this experience that I've had recently with bullies and stuff, um, I've really got to know who my true friends are, and it's really made me wise up to the people that I really don't want to hang around with, and the people that I really do, because I feel like, part of fear, right? And this is something that I kind of want to discuss because there's healthy fear, which is stuff like if someone has proven that they're untrustworthy and they've done things, to hurt you, intentionally, publicly humiliate you, for example, you know, then why would you want to be their friend? Now, I get it, for example, if, say if someone's done some, like, say, for example, let me give you an example. Someone, say, bullies me, so then I put a self-defense status up. I understand that. So if someone else has caused the drama or whatever, and you've defended yourself because untrue rumors are being spread about you, and there's been lies and things, then that's the reason why that you would put that up. So in that sense, yeah, I get it. But I don't understand people that bully online, cyberbullying, do it privately behind people's backs and then are nicest to their face. I don't understand that, you know? I never will understand that because that's not the kind of people I want to be around. And the problem is you can get sucked into these kind of people because they love bringing people down. They love bitching. They love bitching. And it's like, that's not who I am, because I'm the kind of person that likes to build people, not break them. And that's having healthy self-esteem, um, it's having healthy confidence about me. I don't get jealous of people. I want them to do well, That's why I life coach. I want to work with the promoters, with the venues. But if you're humiliating me and you've proven that, then the fear that I would have towards that situation is perfectly acceptable because I know that these people are not trustworthy and they're emotionally dangerous. So that's where the fear thing is okay to have. But say if you were having that fear towards everybody, then there would be a problem. Like say if you were having, I don't know, let me give you an example. Say if there was a really nice person that you've known all your life and everything, and then all of a sudden you're like, this person's gonna hurt me and stuff, then that's a rational fear, And I go on how people behave towards me. I go on how they're acting towards me, how, are they jealous? Or are they like caring? Do they go behind my back? Do they take the piss out of me? It's all about respect for me. I don't mind a bit of banter, but ultimately, you've got to have respect. And for me, the friends I have now respect me. Oh my God, I mean, I can't even explain to you the level of friendships that I've got now and the quality of friendships that I have now. And I'm not dogging anyone in the past because, whatever we went through, we went through. It's a life lesson. We may at the time not have been good ourselves. So, it's understanding that. So you might have been sabotaging it as well. Who knows? What my point being is fight or flight response is when it's, when you're faced with a threat or you feel like you're in danger. And, the only way to remove that danger is to make sure that you're not around people that have proven, that they're not trustworthy. And then secondly, um, make sure that you're not putting that fear on people who are actually, okay. And I struggle with that sometimes because of the traumas that I've gone through because, I mean, one day you think everyone's cool and you're fine with everyone, and the next minute you're seeing state comments and comments on people that you trusted, dogging you, and you're like, where the hell has this come from? And people can be very sort of scrutinizing towards everything you do. It's almost like they're sitting there judging you on every single thing that you're doing. And it's quite sad, really, that people think like this because most of them aren't perfect themselves. When you look at what they've done and the things that you know, what what they've done and the things that they do. I mean, I could go through each single person and go through all the things they've done wrong, but I don't do that because I'm not a terrible person. I only do that in self-defense. So it's sort of understanding that you know there's healthy fears And then there's irrational fears. So irrational fears are when you're punishing someone who doesn't deserve it, or you're trying to push someone away who only wants the best for you and loves you, for example. These are the things I'm talking about. So, you know, I know so many of you that are so afraid of getting into relationships because of this trauma that you've had with previous relationships. But you will get to a point where things stop hurting as much. There will be a point where, you start to love yourself a bit better. You take that love back for yourself and you start to do things with your friends, with your family. You start to get better. You start to, you start thinking about everything that's happened and you start to reflect. And, you know, I mean, the problem with me is I'm one of these people that is a solution-based person. And that's very difficult when you're dealing with someone who doesn't deal with their issues and just pretends they don't happen. They haven't happened, goes into denial and then goes into escapism. And that's really hard because there's not that truthful conversation happening. When someone is lying to themselves and other people, you won't get that closure. So you need to understand that not everyone is on your same wavelength. So even though you want something to work out, or say you want to have a living relationship with that person may not want it. And for whatever reason, they put other people's opinions over how he feels. So you've got to then look at what is going to work for me. What are my needs and wants? What are the things that I want in a relationship? And and I want somebody who is going to be, you know, a long-term person. I don't go into relationships to just be with them for a few, you know, I want someone who's going to commit long term and is going to be working. They've got a good sense of work ethic because that's important to me. A lot of people say, oh, well, I've got my standards, and it's because I've been raised on work ethic. I've always done work regardless how ill I've been. I've always done my band. I've done Ragebreed. I've done so many different things. Even when I've been really poorly, I've continued doing the things that I really love to do because I know that is what, is the core of who I am. I know who I am inside out and I know what makes me happy. I've done all that soul searching stuff, and it's about finding what you love to do, and finding the things that you want from life. And once you start that journey, you start to think about, what is it that I want? And I do want longevity. I do want someone who's going to be like, I love you back. But you have to, when you've been through traumatic situations and people have rejected you or they've hurt you, you've learned that's love. So when people actually do care about you and love you, it's really weird. It's like, what? You're nice to me. Why? And that's so sad that I've had to feel that way because when you've been hurt so much by people, when someone is really nice to you, you're like, "What? This is really weird for me," And it's because I've gone through so much shit with people. And I don't know what it is like, which is really quite sad, actually. I don't know what it is like to be with someone who will stay, you know, and actually wants to plan for the future. And I don't know what it's like to have a friend that doesn't bitch about me. Which is really sad as well, because a lot of my female friends ended up getting with a guy that I love, and also, even in the past, cheated on me. My best friend went with a guy that I was in love with and cheated on me. So I've gone through really difficult things. And what I've realized is that, everyone makes mistakes, but it doesn't mean to say that, you can forgive them, but it doesn't mean you go back with them. Um, if you can rise above these things and you can work things out, brilliant, But for me, as I'm aware in relationships, it's never going to go, perfectly. And because I know that and I understand that people are capable of mistakes, I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of being in a long term relationship anymore because I know that it's going to happen. But the thing is, you see, it's about truth and honesty. So if you fuck up, tell each other. Don't base a relationship on lies. I hate lies. I hate it so much. Can't stand liars. It really bugs me because I'm one of these people that I cannot help but tell the truth. It's just something I can't help doing, you know. Um, and so when I'm in a relationship with someone, you know, I want to know that they're going to protect my heart, not break it. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people around in this day and age that want the same thing. But you can only truly get that if you are the person, if you become that person that you want to be. You've got to be that role model. You've got to be a person that wants that. And if you have these fight or flight issues, for example, acknowledge them and heal them, fix them, you know, try and get better with your anxiety, do the guided meditation techniques, you know, go and see a doctor, get, you know, go on medication because, you know, I mean, my dad's a doctor and he tells me so many times he's had made so many people with anxiety and depression better just by the meds because it is a chemical imbalance, you know. But I would recommend also guided meditation. And for me personally, what works is to do, um, you know, combine the both. So, you know, have your meds, but also do the guided meditation and also couple that with maybe counseling or psychotherapy, and that will help you, you know, try and fight this thing because you aren't alone. There's so many people out there that have got it, and so many people have phobias, irrational phobias as well. But it's about communication. If you're afraid, say you're afraid. You know, so I'm afraid of getting close. I'm, you know, and just and listen and really listen to the person and just say, because the thing is, the only thing that I've ever really wanted is to be with one person that I love. That's it. That's all I really want. And the thing is, I still want to have my career, you know, because that's who I am. So you have to understand that I am a public figure and there are going to be people that, you know, um, flirt with me and things like that. But you can't take that to heart because the thing is, it's just being a public figure. You have that all the time, you know. It doesn't mean to say that I'm getting with all these different people because I'm not. You know, I do have people that, you know, I think that there are people that are interested in me, and you know, I'm not going to go too much into that because you know, at the moment, I'm in the crossroads of my life to make better decisions for myself. You know, and making sure that I'm not going to end up alone all my life. And I know that I have recovery to do, but that's why I'm taking the steps necessary in order to get the healing. Um, you know, and that's why I'm sharing this with you because I know there's so many other people that have gone through traumas, you know. Um, I've gone through emotional and physical abuse, and it's something that I'm dealing with, and I'm, you know, getting everything that I need to do done, you know, including a charity that's helping with victims of, you know, abuse and stuff. So I am having those sessions starting, I think it's in a few weeks' time. But that's just to give closure to that at the past. But my point being is that everyone has gone through something and you're not alone. And I want people to understand that Rage Breed My Body and Spirit is there to help people. You know, we want people to speak up about the problems that they're having. We want people to acknowledge, you know, if they have got problems, go to your GP, you know, and, you know, a lot of people are worried about GPs and things like that. They're afraid, you know, they have trust issues even with their doctors and stuff. But I'm telling you, you know, these people are medically trained, you know, they're people that have gone through university, they know the physiology of everything, even the drugs and all that. They know everything that will help you to get the chemicals right back into your body, whether it's, you know, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, you know, and you will have to probably go through a few different types to get the right one for you, you know, but once you do, you will see your life improving. And I can tell you that from first-hand experience, that couple that with some therapy and you couple that with, you know, eating right, making sure that you're being healthy, and just staying away from things that are toxic. So it's like I've had to do this kind of detox of my life, if you like. So so basically, cold people who are not people that support you and put you down and continuously scrutinize you, they don't deserve to be in your life, because everyone makes mistakes. It's it's just it's just life, but it's the problem that these people are is that they're like pedantic, petty, and they go through all these things. So make sure that you've got people that bring positive energy to you, but and they tell you things but in a tactful way, which is respectful. They're really cool people because they're people that actually care about you. They want to see you rise. They want you to do well. So that's number one. Number two is, exercise and diet. And I know this sounds cliche, but actually, when you're doing exercises, it releases endorphins, and that really helps with your depression, because when you're looking after your body, you know, um, you get such great endorphins and you feel so good about yourself because you're actively doing something to help your body, and if you put some time and effort into that, that's amazing. And then when it comes to like meditation, I mean, I've posted about guided meditation earlier. So do that 10 minutes a day, once in the morning. If you want, do it twice, do it once, in the evening as well before you go to bed. And you will find such a difference in your life. And I really do believe, you know, eating right, making sure you've got good energy around you, supportive energy around you, you know, um, meditate, and all these things are so important, and make sure that, you're doing things that you love to do. Do more of that, pamper yourself sometimes, have a hot bath, a bubble bath, um, but do things that are healthy for you, because once you have that level of self-care, your life will change, because it means that you're doing something to love your body, love your mind, love your spirit, and it will take you out of this kind of, self-sabotaging sink, where you're continuously doing that. And you will have days where, you think, oh, I don't want to do this, and you have a bad day. But if you do, just have that bad day, exercise it off tomorrow, and then continue with your routine. And that's how to do it, because we all have off days, but it's important to have that self-discipline to think, right, okay, I've eaten too much today, I've eaten crap, so tomorrow I'm going to do this, and I'm going to exercise a little bit more than I would do normally to keep my body back into that balance. And that is how you look after yourself. Couple that with your meds, your therapy, and all that kind of stuff, then slowly you will start to see results. And remember, don't be hard on yourself. If you truly are going through panic attacks and anxiety and depression and things like that, it's a hard thing to go through. It really, really is. But if you have the right support network and you're trusting the right people, not the people that lie to you, but the people that will tell you straight. It might be hard to hear and it might be difficult, but they're the people to trust, the people that actually tell you straight and love you, that will tell you the truth. That's the people you want in your life, not people that are just going to dick you around all the time. It's knowing the difference between friends and mates and frenemies, and believe me, there's a lot of them on Facebook. Um, so make sure that, you know, you've got a good positive circle around you, and know the people in your life to trust and the people not to. Because it's very important to have a healthy bonds in your life, and if people are doing things that you don't like, and, say someone is mistreating you, put your boundaries up, talk to them, speak to them and say, this is a problem that I've got. Be tactful and address the issue with that person. And I'm sure if you care enough about each other, it will get resolved. And that is truly the art of problem solving. Rather than getting afraid and sabotaging and then thinking the worst of that person and the situation, that's how you do it. And it's all about that. So I hope that this session of Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit has helped you in regards to anxieties and phobias, and especially when it comes to relationships, because I know that there's a few of you that probably could use this advice. So remember that once you face your fears and you discuss openly about your fears, you talk about your anxieties and you let that person know, that will build your bond, that will build trust up again, because that's how you do it. You take each step at a time, you build up the bond, you find that trust in each other, and then it can go into a more permanent state. But without having that discussion to know what each other want, you don't know. And a lot of people say, oh, go with the flow and all this sort of stuff. I said, well, yeah, to a certain degree, but you have to know what you want when you go into a relationship. If you want to go into a relationship, I mean, I go into relationships for long term. If you're going in for just, we'll see how it goes for a few months and then you're going to move on to someone else, then be real with that person. Just say to them, I'm not ready for a proper commitment. I'm just ready for something like seeing you for a bit. And, if you're openly honest with someone, then they can't get their hopes up and then be destroyed by the decisions that you make. So honesty is always the best policy. And I always say that because, you know, I'm recovering from things and I'm kind of at the crossroads of my life now because, it's like I have offers and I have, this, and I still have this soft spot for someone who has hurt me, but I also know why it's happened. So, it's down to that. But ultimately, you have to, you have to think about what you want. And if it is long term longevity that you want, then, communicate that, and make sure that the other person wants the same thing. And if they don't, then you have to cut the cord and move on to someone who will give you, what you need. And your heart will learn to love again. It will just, the things that once you start to learn to love yourself and you're around people that love you back, you will never expect or accept anything less than that, because you know your worth. And it's really important to know what your worth is. You are deserving of a healthy relationship. You are deserving of success. You are deserving of doing the things that you want to do in life. You are deserving of, all the things that you want to do. It's just that you have to believe that. So I'm hoping that, this fear stuff, this irrational fear, will hopefully go once you understand the dynamics of what this is about and learn to heal your traumas and do take the steps that you need in order to heal. Otherwise, you're going to go on a loop of self-sabotage and it's going to hurt yourself and it's going to hurt all the people around you. So I hope that this has helped, and I really hope that you guys sort out any phobias that you might have and understand what's happening when you're going into fight or flight. Um, until next time, take it easy. This is Karina from Ragebreed.